Hello, everyone. Welcome to another exciting episode of Infopedia. I'm your host, Crage2.
I'm Frankie.
And I'm Teafed.
On tonight's episode, it's night here. It's got to be night where you are, too, because listening to this in the morning, that sounds like an invitation for a great day. But we are talking about the Red Hat Society. Who were they? What do they do? What are they up to? And what does the future look like for this lovely group of women? But first, I'd like to introduce our sponsor, and this is a very interesting sponsor for us. It's the first time we've been sponsored by a dancing organization.
We're supposed to talk about the Patreon first, which I know a lot of people have been like asking questions. Like,
we don't really have to talk about it if we don't, right?
Listen, we're the reason that Patreon doesn't even exist anymore. Don't you think that's like at least worth mentioning a little bit?
Yeah, so not only just our Patreon got shut down, but the entire server of Patreon got shut down. We were hacked. And there were a few DDoS attacks, specifically on our Patreon page. But of course, with a DDoS attack, you can't really just isolate whatever server our specific page was on. So they kind of took down the whole thing. We're still investigating on who was behind the DDoS.
Well, no, I mean, see, okay. So the way I see it, we own Patreon. We have over 90% of Patreon's monthly revenue comes from the donations from the Infopedians like you. And if you're not an Infopedia donator, I would plug it, but we're gonna have to figure something else out. So the way I figured, since we're the ones with the most of the revenue, we should be running the show. So we very temporarily, just as an experiment, donated 100% of all Patreon donations into our revenue stream. It was just for a couple of weeks. And really, that shouldn't have made a difference because, I mean, when you think about how much money we were making in the grand scheme, no one should have had heads or tails. And we asked some of the people, and most of the responses we got seemed positive about this idea. And somehow that's a violation of their terms and service. And so now we're stuck in the dark with no revenue from Patreon anymore. And we're currently under federal investigation. And again, and I still don't see why the first investigation was even necessary because we told them exactly what happened. And they just, I guess they don't believe us. So in any case, we're going to need more money and fast. So we're going to talk about that more at the end of the show, I think. But
in the meantime, those of you who are still obligated to donate can send a check to 4343 Sweet Street, Podcast Village, California, 92666. So just keep the checks flowing, and there should be no issues if that's the case. And you don't want to know what would happen if that wasn't. So
now that we have, it's just I'm still of the opinion that that's really not a part of the show. It's just business as usual. But now we can talk about our lovely sponsor Shen Yun and the beautiful Chinese chancing women.
Shen Yun is known for their beautiful dancers and Chinese dancing women. Shen Yun partnered with us this episode because they wanted as many of our listeners in particular to know that we're going to be hosting a private Chinese dancing women party in Podcast Village. That's going to be happening August 4th on this year. And if you make a contributable donation of either in US dollars or Chinese yen, the Chinese money, then you can do that too, and have an invitation.
The reason we partner with Shen Yun is because they stand for something that we also stand for, which is being afraid of the government that you're allegedly a member of, or were your ancestral government. You're true, like, so I mean, I don't know how to describe it because Beijing, they're afraid of Shen Yun, which is okay because it's a very scary show. The women are leaping far into the air, way higher than anyone should. frankly, and their legs go 180 degrees in the air. Scary. Not sure if the bones situation really adds up for that one, and the muscles even less so. So I can see why the whole city would be afraid of Shenyun, according to their website, which I've pulled up recently for some research purposes, of course. But in any case, there's nothing to stop the dancers from dancing it up Chinese style, the old school way, the real way, right here in Podcast Village.
Thanks again to Shenyun for their sponsorship.
But by the way, they gave us $1 million cash for this.
It was two.
It was
2 million.
It was 1 million.
No,
No,
I
your
meant
share was 1 million. Our share was, we got 2 million each.
What?
yeah.
It goes by word count.
Oh,
Don't worry about it. You're not. What are you not going to have enough? Only $1 million for you. Sorry.
well, I mean, I feel like
Before tax.
Before tax. For yours, that's tax has already been included, so that kind of helps a little bit.
yeah, I feel like I put a lot more work into this show than you guys, and like you're both
Here
getting.
it goes.
Okay, whatever. It's fine.
No, yeah.
No, I don't. No, it's fine. I don't care. It's
Here's
fine.
the thing. Like the problem is that the things that you contribute, they add up to less value than the things that we do, even if it costs you more time. So we can't have this. This is not supposed to be a part of this is an information podcast, not a arguing with Teafed podcast.
Thank you, Shenyun, for what you've done for TeafedNet. Let's move on to the main show.
So, the Red Hat Society, how did this crazy organization for women 50 and up actually get started? Well, it has a long history, longer than you would imagine. Back in the 1840s, there was a woman named Liz Carpenter who had a lot of fun ideas that she would write down in over 100 divorced women's rights essays and sonnets. At the time, they were widely and wildly unpopular, but despite that, had an influence that would cause ripples over the over 100 years after the inception of said essays and sonnets. Some of Liz Carpenter's most notable works include Let Some of Us Vote. This is, again, in reference to women. The Alimony Testimony, and most notably, the Red Hat Reckoning, which we will come back to, as that was one of the most influential pieces of media or literature that contributed to the formation of the society itself. And briefly, I wanted to, in classic Infopedia fashion, extend a question to the room, which is, what is your favorite verse from any Liz Carpenter poem, of which we are all intimately familiar, of course?
Well, first of all, I have a lot of answers to this because I think she's a visionary thinker. But I'd like to make a little bit more of a note about the specific subject material that she was interested in, because she existed during the women's suffrage movement in the mid 1800s. But she had a very specific take on this, which was that women should have voting rights if they get divorced. Now, this didn't have, I think a lot of the unpopularity, or like the people who didn't like her poems, was because her ideas were so controversial and revolutionary. Personally, I think that this is just another amazing idea in the growing marketplace of ideas. And I think it's important that we acknowledge women's rights and women's wrongs. But to give some more perspective, I think just in general, like a lot of her ideas may have in current contextual history, we've sort of aged out of them a little bit. But I think that she has some really wonderful poetry, especially in her epic poem, The Red Hat Reckoning, which would go on to be her most important work. Specifically the line where she says, "Where is my red hat? The hat that I need. The hat so I can see. The hat so I can lead. 100 years or more. plus 40 and some score, an important site of web will politely shit the bed. Now, we're going to talk about the interpretations of the poem in the future, but the people, I'm not going to, okay, well, I'm sorry if I'm jumping ahead too far, but this is widely regarded as a reference to pets.com crashing in the 2001 .com bubble. We have a lot to say about this whole thing, but this line really gives me chills, because once you realize this is really about the future of pets.com, it makes you realize she's like the Nosferatu of the 1840s, where she's knowing things that couldn't possibly, there's no way she could have known what a website. I could talk about this for the rest of my life, but I think I better give it over to my co-hosts here.
My favorite verse from the Red Hat Reckoning is in Opus 7, where she mentions, I guess I could read it directly. Sewage wastewater flows down your throats. Dog Poindexter can't eat a goat. Clam up your chowder to more. Baguette and flimsy, street down to yours. And the Opus 7 is known as being the most cryptic of the parts. This is actually how it concludes. And one of the fun things about the Red Hat Reckoning poem is that it was that it's so open to interpretation that we'll mention her a little bit more, but Sue Ellen Cooper was one of the main scholarly interpreters of the poem, who kind of changed what the Red Hat Society was in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I mean, I see what you're saying here. I get what you're saying, but the thing is, people want to talk about the Red Hat Society, before 1908, right? And before the CIA takeover, and before Sue Ellen Cooper, interpreted the poem and realized it for the prophetic work of epic fiction that it is, or nonfiction. But I think that, the timelines really should be inverted, because. But we'll have to get to these places. We can talk about it chronologically in terms of what happened when. But when you look at the way that it worked, it really it's kind of like a retroactive history, really.
I think it's time for Frankie to say their favorite part of the poem, because you're just taking up the spotlight again. I'm sorry.
It's not often that someone comes to my defense, so I will relish it. Thank you. I was waiting patiently, and here I am. Here's my favorite verse of the Red Hat Reckoning. It's the final stanza of the entire thing.
That's really creative.
It goes as follows. When the bark of the tree is flattened and still, a roll of the wheel will carry you thrill. At a school most high, at a pool most low, the Birdman, Antonio, will show you the way to go. So that is my favorite verse of the poem. You may notice that the excerpts that we chose sort of illustrate a sort of descent into more and more cryptic writing, which I'm a big fan of. And we'll kind of come back to the crypticness and people's interpretations later. But I want to talk about the rituals of the Red Hat Society before 1908, which we established was when the CIA ended up infiltrating and taking over. So there was a few rituals that were decades long in the making. These women really loved to play the long game. So what happened was Was Liz Carpenter in the Red Hat Society as well?
She was the original poet.
Well, she was the poet. It was.
Yeah.
It's sort of it's a great question actually, because many people don't really know. So she was actually still writing at the time when the Red Hat Society first sort of came together in the mid 1800s, in like the 1850s. She was still writing. She died tragically at the age of 27 in 1957, and the Red Hat Society started heroically in 1955 or so, and she was writing all the way up to her death. But in any case, she was not a member of the society per se, but she was aware of them, and she was kind of confused because this wasn't her favorite poem. And the poem, she actually tried to make a cult in a different poem called "Listen to Me, I Know What to Say, and I Know What to Do, Follow This Way," which was a terrible name for a poem, which is probably why the Red Hat Reckoning caught forth and was the one that really lit the divorced women's rights essay and sonnet community on fire.
Thank you for answering that question. There are some spots in my understanding of the Red Hat Society that are stronger than others. But that being said, so it was obviously a matriarchal society, not necessarily in the sense of a bloodline, although bloodlines did become involved. There was of course, with any group, naturally the human condition is to sort of sort yourselves into who's better than who else. So basically the top lady would be called Exalted Queen Mother, and that title came with power and responsibility that included sort of communing with what was known as the Felt, which was an entity that would come in the night to whoever the Exalted Queen Mother was and sort of whisper little stuff. So basically, but in order to get that information, there were certain there were certain sacrifices that had to be made, right? And so one of these sacrifices was to cast aside your first love. And this is interesting because it's almost an ascetic sort of monk sort of philosophy, but with a twist, because the whole idea of the Red Hat Society was that you can not only ascend the ranks of the hierarchy, but have more and more rights if you fall in love, and you have to actually be in love. They do test for that. To become in love and to end that love through the legal process of a divorce, which was wild back then because I don't think divorce was very common at all in the 1800s. So
one of the many, again, retroactive rituals that we call them rituals because they were doing it even so I don't want to belabor this point any longer, but there's two schools of thoughts about when the Red Hat Society was formed. There's the more accepted one by scholars like me, who believe that the Red Hat Society was founded by Sue Ellen Cooper in the late 1990s, after her interpretation proved many things, including the fall of pets.com / the .com bubble, the Enron bankruptcy. There was some other important things that happened in 2001. I can't remember. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 for Game Boy Advance had the GameStop score for it. They predicted this within one decimal place. But in any case, there's also the people who were just kind of doing stuff that's sort of related to the Red Hat Society. It was basically just, coincidence. But another thing that this proto Red Hat Society was doing was they were wearing purple clothes. The clothes on their body were made from the color purple. This was supposed to represent why we are the queens of the world, because purple is the color of royalty, and red is the color of bloodshed, which is the color of the demise of the world, the color of of destruction, and also the color of apples, which are my favorite fruit.
Apples also obviously being emblematic of the knowledge of the fruit of good and evil in the Garden of Eden.
So we're not quite sure when the Red Hat Society really became the Red Hat Society, but we suspect actually that the ritual of going around town and wearing a red hat came actually a year or two before the Red Hat Reckoning was published in Reader's Digest. Some say that this was started by Liz Carpenter's friend, Jenny Joseph, who was a hat saleswoman and sold hats on the roadside. And they would do all sorts of fun things, such as go shopping for...
I mean, the thing is, this is a great question because a lot of the things that they actually did, which was like shopping and drinking wine and playing bridge and crocheting and arts and crafts, were really just sort of an alibi because what they were planning on was a complete overthrow of the world government. They were trying to create a set of circumstances for society in which divorced women could walk the face of the earth as the singular source of authoritarian control for all governments from all places except for marriages, which if you got rid of it, then you could join the club, as they might say. But in any case, a lot of their activities involved like crocheting, weapons training. They like to do journaling and scrapbooking. They did seminars on reloading ammunition into their original shells, survivalist training. There was a lot of macaroni art involved. A lot of bedazzling, which was an emerging technology at the time, and some even played card games like bridge and Heads Up 7-Eleven, but that'll do for another episode.
So this group, while it didn't completely accomplish its goal of creating a sort of new world order, one world government, it got kind of close, a little too close for the United States government's liking, which if you might see some parallels with our situation in that regard. That's neither here nor there. At any rate, the CIA, which stands for the Central Intelligence Agency, by the way, they took an interest in the Red Hat Society because they found it threatening to not only the current world order, or the world order at the time, but arguably more importantly, the destruction of the traditional nuclear family and the idea that women needed to become divorced and independent. But what they failed to realize is that marriage was also an integral part of the process and of the ideology. It's a very yin-yang situation. You need the marriage so that you can have the divorce, because ultimately it's the separation and the divorce that elevates a person in their spiritual growth and journey. So the CIA would hire women to don that purple clothing, take up the cloak and hat, as it were, and join the ranks. Not only that, but obviously, as any undercover agent would, try to rise through the ranks, gain influence and power, report intelligence back to the Central Intelligence Agency in order to sort of dismantle it from the inside. Were they successful?
So Barbara Sweet, who, as we both know, maybe you guys don't, was the elected president in 1908, as the first female president who was divorced. And she did not have a first husband, which was part of the reason why people accepted it, because they didn't like the ring of first husband. First lady had a nice ring to it. But her supporters, the biggest demographic of them were the divorced women in the Red Hat Reckoning. This was a very unpopular election in which only about 0.5% of the American people voted, and 100% of the proto Red Hat society voted for her. It's it's a known statistic that at this time period, essentially 90% of the Red Hat Society members were undercover CIA agents trying to tell on each other and snitching on each other's business, to sit in the court and be their own star witness. It was really more of a method because the opponent of Barbara Sweet, who was of the opinion that the CIA doesn't exist yet, and the CIA, maybe we need to make it after in maybe 40 years or so. This person, they had to get rid of her. There's no choice. So this was actually the first time the CIA ever tried to overthrow a foreign government, because this CIA wasn't from America at all. It was from a place that no longer exists and whose name we're not even allowed to say.
It was Prussia. You may have heard of Shelby Gosnold. She was actually the Exalted Queen Mother of the Red Hat Society in 1908. Her and Barbara Sweet worked together to prevent the CIA from taking over the Red Hat Society. She had every woman in the Red Hat Society to write complaint letters to Prussia. At this time, their territory was so small that the inundation of letters that they received was actually quite overwhelming for the country. And in fact, Shelby directed all of the members to write their letters in red and purple ink. So at this time, the Prussian Postal Service was just like this flurry of red and purple activity, papers coming out of the wazoo. They would open up a mailbox, and comically spilling out would be just a whole bunch of letters. And there were quotes from the Red Hat Reckoning, and it was such a burden on the mail carriers there that it ended up in a small scale war. And it's not titled a war technically, but the counterattack that Prussia launched was known as Blue Whirlwind, and it was a joint operation between Prussia's government and the already overburdened mail carrying service, in which they returned fire and sent letters upon letters written in blue ink, in a famous blue ink, the kind that you get from like the Bic pens that like run out of ink, except they don't really. When you use them sometimes and you gotta tap it, like that blue was the kind that they used, and it influenced American society so much actually that the term Prussian blue came to refer to like that shade of blue.
Truly fascinating stuff. I actually am not very versed in this chapter of history. As the son of a postal worker and the son of a person who's not a postal worker, I half care about the plight of the postal peoples of the world. This was a bloody conflict, and I think that the number of lives that were so needlessly spent tallies in the ones, and that's even just one would be too many for such a conflict that could have been so easily avoided. But hindsight is 20/20, so I guess we'll just have to live on to another day. So the problem with the Prussian CIA was that they were funded by a paramilitary organization in Mozambique, which had their money was coming from the diamond trade, which was really not very lucrative because at this point, nobody really liked diamonds yet, but it was a very speculative market, kind of like the cryptocurrencies of today. But essentially what happened was when the postal carriers realized, hey, we can just stop buying diamonds and we can shut these boys down. They launched a massive boycott to say, stop buying diamonds. Your taxpayer funded postal service needs you. And people stopped buying diamonds, and within one day, all of the value of the diamonds from Mozambique shriveled away, and hence the Prussian CIA was no more. But it found new wings as a branch of the American government a few decades later.
So that's a little bit about the history of the Red Hat Society, but as many of you may know, the Red Hat Society still exists in a slightly different capacity today, but it does exist. It does exist. The requirements to join have changed over time. At first, it was you had to be 50 or older, which was quite rare back in 1840. But, you know, lifespans and vitamins have changed that. They also ended up loosening that requirement. So now apparently, for some reason, women of any age can join, which is whatever. What's the point? Anyway, but the requirement to have been divorced never wavered for a single moment, which is good, because you have to stick to some principle in order to have a group. That's just how groups are. So the one sort of tenet is the concept of hatitude, which is a portmanteau of hat and attitude. The idea is that when you don the hat, you exude a sort of elegance that can only come from the wisdom and age of having gone through a divorce. Hatitude behaviors included things such as giving unsolicited advice to newlyweds, infiltrating people's wedding registries, and adding things that they don't want or need, lobbying for divorced women's rights, which includes all manner of just extracting as much alimony from the partner as humanly possible, sometimes somehow exceeding their actual income, and thus circling back around to the women then owing their ex-partners. How that makes sense or works is not up to me. That's for the courts to decide. At any rate, it exists in the modern day. You can go. They have a website. And upon doing some research, I will say I take umbrage with one simple fact, and that is the website that they run does have an online store. And there's one thing you cannot buy on that website and on that store. And you may have guessed it. Yes, it's red hats. You cannot buy red hats on their website.
Well, okay, that's true, but that's not... I think that's a very weird sticking point, because in general, the Red Hat Society is all about bringing something from yourself to the table. And if they had a red hat for sale, that would, I mean, let's ignore the cultural phenomena of red hats in general, but just think about, like, if you were to sell one specific red hat that's supposed to go for one specific group of people, how could you call yourself an individual? The whole point of the Red Hat Society is about individualism and hatitude. You're supposed to bring your own flair to the experience. If anyone could just, oh, well, I don't know, I'm scared, I'm going to wear the official red hat, then you would just basically bypass this entire attribute, and you'd be attracting the wrong kind of people. And I think in societies of red hats, where there is only one type of red hat you're supposed to wear, you start to, I mean, I don't want to name any names, but the writing's all in the pudding. So you just have to take it for what it is whenever there's enough evidence to see exactly where you're supposed to go. This is what Susan Ellen Cooper tried to talk about. When Susan Ellen Cooper, when she interpreted the poem in the late 1990s, she caused a huge resurgence in membership, because not only was she promoting individuality, and not only was she promoting women who are in their twilight or their golden years to become the women that they've always dreamt of being, divorced, empowered, sometimes a little sexy, but she was also able to use the power of epic poetry to predict the Enron bankruptcy, the downfall of the .com bubble. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 for the Game Boy Advance GameStop score of 9.3. And once again, I'm drawing a blank. There's another event that happened in this time period that doesn't matter. There's
A Space Odyssey.
That's, as you know, that movie came out in the 70s. But in any case, so she's really responsible for everything that we have in the modern day era. The entire Hatitude concept didn't occur before she existed. So anyway, to circle back with what Frankie was saying, your point doesn't really make any sense. And I'm starting to feel like getting a divorce myself here, if I'm being honest.
I feel like you don't respect me, and it's always been a problem. And I just want to fucking we have to settle this right. We really have to settle this
everyone.
now.
Let's be friends.
I don't feel like it.
Yeah, that sounded so stupid.
Well, if you don't,
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Did you say that I sounded stupid just now?
yeah, Teafed, I don't mean to be rude, but this is like, this is between me and Frankie, but it is sort of your fault.
Oh,
It is.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say.
I am this close. I am up to here.
Sorry, I meant to say that everyone sounds really fun.
Yeah, you would. Spineless. You change what you stand for.
But let's actually think about one good positive thing, which is that we have reader mail.
I thought we had an interview.
Well, we can maybe even have both if you stop yelling all the time.
Guys, could we does everyone want to do deep breathing with me?
Yeah, okay. We'll do box breaths,
Hold
okay?
on. Can I
I'll lead it. No, I'll lead it.
I want to.
Nope, wrong again. I'll lead it.
All right.
Okay.
Ready?
Yeah. In, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Out, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. No laughing. 1.
Frankie.
In,
Frankie, you're
3,
supposed. Can
4. Hold, 2,
Can you just breathe
3,
like they're telling you
4. Exhale, 2, 3,
But here-
4. I thought you were a musician. Hold,
The
2.
point of it is
3,
to do it together.
4. I'm breathing too.
You'd be doing it together if you would listen.
If you would just shut up for a fucking
Frankie's-
second.
Well,
Thank
no
you.
language on the
All right,
show.
I'm so sorry.
But now we're on Teafed's side because you're swearing.
All right. Okay.
Okay. Let's just fucking start over. Let's just start over.
You're losing points with every breath.
This is all my fault. I'm sorry.
Well, at
That's
least you
fine.
can
Well, you
admit
can
it.
redeem it by introducing our guest, our guest for this episode and our interviewer.
Okay. All right. Well, it's been a long time coming. We've been getting a lot of listener mail and people asking, "Where's Intern Ivwy?" Well, that's right. We finally decided to let it have another. Let her have another segment. And we're hoping that it'll be really fun. I'm sorry. What is this again? Oh, that's right. Yeah. Intern Ivwy is going to interview Tabitha Pauline. Well, I got it.
Hi, info listeners. This is Intern Ivwy. I'm back. I'm back from China. It took a while to get home, but it's I guess they have me going to another one of these things. I hope it's gonna be okay this time. I'm here at the local chapter in Hunstville, Alabama. I'm here to speak with their queen mother, as they're called. Anyways, I hope that I make it out okay. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Tabitha Pauline. I am the Exalted Queen Mother of the Huntsville, Alabama chapter of the Red Hat Society. And by the way, yeah, it is Exalted Queen Mother. Please put some respect on my title. I had to go through 3 divorces to get there. So, please understand that and have a little respect for your elders.
3 divorces. That sounds like a lot. Can you tell me about what that was like to go through 3 different divorces? I mean, was this over a short period of time, or how did this all work out?
Well, the thing about divorce is that there's a process called annulment, which only happens, at least in Alabama. The state laws are that after 90 days, it is no longer an annulment if you want to legally separate from your husband, and you get a full-on divorce. Now, the exception to this rule is if you consummate the marriage. Do you know what that means?
Please explain for me what exactly you mean by that.
Sure. So, young lady, you may not know this. Are you a maiden, or have you been married before?
I'm not. I haven't been married before.
So you are a maiden, understood. So, someone like you probably wouldn't understand this, but when you enter what is known as marriage, the legal bonding contract, which is a very financial thing as well, you'll come to find, is consummated by what is known as mesomarital sex. You've heard of premarital. You've heard of postmarital. Mesomarital is when you are married and you have coitus. So that is a part of the ritual that is necessary to transfer your relationship from annulment eligibility to divorce eligibility. So I was able to go through 3 husbands in about a week because I was able to it was sort of, you've heard of speed dating. This was sort of speed marriage. So there is a sort of meet and greet, like sort of speed dating get together that we have on a yearly basis in Hunstville, and that's where I met all 3 of my husbands. The same one.
Oh, so you met them all at once. You met them on the same day?
I did meet them on the same day. And so Alan was a fine gentleman. Luckily, that divorce was amicable. The only thing that kind of put a wedge between him and I is that he went to prison. So that kind of wasn't going to work out because, a woman has needs and all. Conjugal visits, honey, don't always do the thing. So I moved on. I moved on to Frederick. Frederick was a French guy, and I don't know what he was doing down here in Alabama. I think he got lost on the way to New Orleans for Mardi Gras, quite frankly, but I can neither prove or deny that. We separated. We obviously consummated the marriage, and we then separated due to, well, sometimes it just doesn't work out. It was love at first sight. In fact, it was love at first sight with all of them, really. But, I'll be honest, he had a hoarding problem. I moved in with him.
A hoarding problem,
and it was floor-to-ceiling porno mags in there.
Oh.
So, of all kinds, Playboy, Hustler, Sizzler. And so, he just was sort of a duplicitous man, and so by the next week, I said, the sex was great, but it's gotta stop. I can't deal with this, so I moved out of there as soon as possible, and moved right into Brian's house. So, Brian was like, the only reason that didn't work out is he was in the military, and he was about to be, I don't know why he went to this speed dating thing fully knowing he was about to be deployed in Afghanistan the next week. But what can you do? I don't know. Does that mean he didn't deserve love? I guess not, but I do want to reiterate that I was deeply in love with all 3 men. Arguably at once, but I did take my time over the 3 weeks and really consider my options, and I want to clear the air because I know that people talk. People at church are talking, and they said that I was cheating, and I wasn't. So I just want to clear the air on that. But the consequence of the triple marriage was that I actually even skipped certain ranks and went straight up to Exalted Queen Mother. And that's how I've been for 2 decades now. I'm in my 70s. I have my own gun range that I manage on the side, and that's how I make most of my taxable income. Now, the untaxable income, honey, that's a whole different story, sugar, and that's not what we're getting into right now, so don't even try it.
You don't want to talk more about I mean, you just kind of, I mean, I'm not trying to pressure you into answering the question or anything, but I mean, it sounded like you kind of wanted to talk about it. I mean, I could see that smile on your face.
You are something else. Let me say, if you are going to get wafted up so quick, I just know it.
Is that for divorce, or is that just...
Well, honey, it's up to you what your path is. Sometimes things don't work out. We have members of the society that were married for 30 years, and it just didn't work out, and they wanted a new start, and that's sort of what Attitude is all about.
I feel like we're kind of making a connection here a little bit. I was really nervous for this interview. When they said you were an Exalted Queen Mother, I thought you were gonna, like, be on a throne or like be some sort of like horrible monster, but you know what, you're great. I'm really enjoying this interview,
honey. I'm loving this interview, sugar. Are you now? Where are you stationed?
I don't really. I think it's the podcast village. Sometimes they let me sleep there.
Sometimes they let. Well, honey, if you ever find yourself in the South, you can stay with me. Let's just put it that way.
Do you want to get divorced?
Now,
I mean,
now there's the real question. Do you want to get divorced?
I mean, you talk about getting divorced from 3 different people, and there's these 3 people in my life that I don't know. I'm really feeling like that might be the best thing for me to really empower myself. But I've never done something like that before.
It really is powerful. It is a very powerful, formative experience. I do feel the connection over here, and it might just be the chemtrails from the rockets that we have here, but
you've rockets here?
Honey, you've never been to Hunstville, have you?
This is my first time. Oh.
Baby, we got everything. We've got Waffle House. We've got NASA. We've got a church with a lot of mosaic of Jesus.
So you've mentioned the church a couple times. How does that factor into, your community of the Red Hat Society? I mean, normally we don't think of, or at least I don't think of, a divorce as being hand in hand with the church and all. So, what can you tell me about a little bit how that works here?
Well, honey, I'm Methodist. I'm not a Catholic or anything. That hasn't been a part of doctrine for hundreds of years, I thought. We do kind of look up to Henry the 14th in certain ways, and we do look up to Martin Luther in certain ways, because they were trailblazers in their societies at the time. And while they are men, that's not to say that they didn't have certain qualities that were admirable and inspirational. My faith is very important to me. I love my Lord, and He loves me back. But our ultimately Red Hat Society is a secular society, despite what it looks like from the outside. We do have what some may call rituals involving, every religion has liquid, okay? So just because ours is red, okay, it's the Red Hat Society, right? So just because we have red liquid, does that mean it's blood? It's not always blood.
Oh, yeah.
No. It's not always blood, because it's expensive to get real blood. So sometimes it's pig's blood or cow blood, or it's just Kool-Aid. So which is my favorite because I love I love to drink that. But anyway,
I mean, I'm just having a great time with this interview. Like, I didn't have any questions prepared, but just hanging out with you, I really needed something like this.
I could tell, but that's okay. Look, after this, here, where are you staying?
Well, I don't think they made any travel plans for me. They kind of they do this thing where they kind of just like kick me out of a plane. They land it in a field somewhere, and they kind of just like shove me out. There's usually like info bag over my head.
So they can't afford rockets. Understood.
Yeah, sure, rockets.
Well, why don't you come over to mine? I'll make you some Milo sweet tea right from the jug, and
that sounds incredible.
It's great. All I have to do is pour it. I'll get it at Publix, and it's simply wonderful. I can't live a day without my Milo sweet tea. But anyway, yeah, come on over.
Are those cookies on your desk?
Cookies on my desk? Yes, of course there are cookies on my desk.
Could I have one?
You can have as much as you want, sugar.
Oh, great.
Those ones are gluten-free. Those ones are sugar-free. Careful, those will give you the shits. I learned that the hard way. But those ones are just normal chocolate shit.
I'll take a chocolate. Well, I think we learned a lot here today about the Red Hat Society. Back to you, Teafed.
Thank you to Tabitha Pauline for taking the time out of her day for this schedule.
Now, Ivwy, did you manage to ask Tabitha about her involvement in the insurrectional activities that occurred earlier this month?
Insurrectional activity? Wait, hold on.
Yeah, I was surprised because you have a long interview and she's been denying interviews left and right with media personalities from across the board, and that's why we were very excited to get you.
I didn't have time to do any research this time. I mean, I literally just got back from China, and you guys were pretty much shoving me on a plane.
Okay, well, here's the thing. I can tell by the.
I have one good interview, and it's not good enough for you guys.
Well, first of all, I haven't listened to your interview yet. We haven't edited the episode to put in your interview yet, but I'm not the defensive tone that you're taking right now is not giving me a good indication that the contents is. I mean, the reason I'm asking the question in the first place is because I was sort of suspicious, judging by the length of the file, which was very long, that we can talk about this offline, and we don't have to do this right now in front of the entire info crew or on the podcast, but just when we give you the Google Doc, just try to read the whole thing.
Thanks, Ivy.
Let's go on to listener mail now. Yeah?
Okay, Teafed, you have the mail for me?
Yeah, here. It should.
Oh, I got it right here. Thank you. Okay. Let's see. So this one. Okay, this one comes from Brandy, who is age 19 from North Carolina. Brandy, okay, anyway, Brandy says, "Hi, Info Crew. What's the hardest part about recording an episode of Infopedia?" To tell you the truth, it's not hard. There's no hard parts about recording an episode of Infopedia. Frankly, the hardest part is choosing what not to say, because in a format like a podcast, there isn't an opportunity for what the Japanese like to call ma, or negative space. Most of the time is occupied with speech, and what really counts is what you're not saying. And that's why it's important to listen, because in the space when you're listening, speech is coming from somewhere else.
Just piggybacking off of what Crage 2 said, it is quite difficult, and I'm not the editor, so luckily this decision doesn't have to be made by me. But for every episode, we do record about 20 hours straight of us speaking, and we have to pare it down to about an hour, and it's kind of like, what do we cut? It's kind of all gold. So I always have such a great time. I really couldn't get along better with my co-hosts, and much love and respect for all of the hard work that we all put into Infopedia to create the best possible product of the highest quality that we can impart upon the world, leaving hopefully a lasting legacy of love and light?
For me, what's the hardest thing about recording an episode of Infopedia? It's hard to even know where to begin, to be honest. But I try not to worry about it. It's a lot of work running a podcast, and two, running Teafed, handling imports and exports, and making sure everything's good at Podcast Village, making sure that that our biological monitoring systems are all intact and functioning, and not even to mention the two, not one but two rock gardens we have to maintain at least 3 times a day, which, by the way, Intern Ivwy hasn't been home in Podcast Village so I had to do all the rock moving. I had to do the prayers in the cemetery, and I had to mow the lawn every week.
Yeah, well, this is, you did sign up on the chore chart for all those things when I told you.
No, I did. I wrote the chore chart and said you guys should maybe help out if you want to.
I was busy with other things. I erased my name and put your name on those things. Yeah. And it worked out great, because now it seems like you're doing the work for 2 people, which apparently was the work for 1 person, which frees my time up to do the important stuff, like getting the facts straight on all the information, really.
I don't know. I just feel like you guys don't really appreciate what I'm.
Well, that actually is funny that you mentioned that, because
we're talking about this again.
Sorry.
Well, I can, because I have something very special for you, Teafed. Frankie and I, we put our heads together and we noticed how much work you were doing recently. Mm-hmm. So we got you this.
Oh, happy Valentine's Day. It's a heart-shaped container.
No. With, in the inside.
Why don't you open it?
Open it up.
Okay.
Just open it up. It's not that hard to open it up.
There are chocolates on the inside.
We got these for you because we realized that after February 14th, mm-hmm. this stuff's, they're just giving it away.
They are.
And we thought, well, if there's anyone who deserves it, it's probably got to be Teafed.
So
one of them's already. There's 4 slots.
It did come like that.
No, that came like that. That was just in a different version of it. There's multiple.
It was on clearance.
There wasn't any wrapping on it.
It was on clearance. So that's probably why.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, of course.
We know how much work you put in, and we know it's been tough. I mean, you didn't get you didn't get the good part of the contract with Shenyun, but we thought that we just want to make sure you know that you're appreciated.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate the three pieces of chocolate.
Well, that just about does it for our show. Our thanks to Marimba Utopia for the use of their song Explore as our theme song.
This show was recorded in Podcast Village, California. Infopedia is a TeafedNet production.
I'm Krage too.
I'm Frankie.
And I'm Teafed.
Stay info.